Hello everybody and welcome to your impressions video for today. Today we're taking a look at a game I wasn't even sure I was going to be able to bring you, and that is Final Fantasy XIV Online A Realm Reborn. If you have been following this game even remotely, you know this game has had a pretty troubled past and continuing that trend with a pretty troubled launch. What was originally, a pre-order bonus for early access quickly devolved into basically a big pain in the ass trying to even log in. The game sold way more than they expected it to, which is a good sign. But at the same time, they were woefully unprepared for the amount of people that were about to attack their servers. Multiple server shutdowns, multiple server restarts, emergency maintenance, preventing people from getting in, not even having a queue in the game, and instead giving you error 1017, which prevented you from even attempting to even log on. Something so simple that could have been fixed by just having a queue completely botched the early access, and even the early few days, the early couple days that this game was even officially out on launch, and it's still out on launch. It's still having some of these problems. Problems such as not auto-logging out AFKers, which means people could stay logged in for 8 hours at a time and not do anything. Having problems such as having to take the game off of digital distribution sales because it is impossible to meet the demand that's being met right now. All these things making an incredibly rough launch. On top of it, preventing people from creating videos and monetizing their work. Something that Japan has been having a huge issue with, from Sega now to Square Enix, is allowing YouTubers and Twitch streamers to stream and monetize the game, meaning all the work that we're putting into playing the game, writing our thoughts on it, presenting those thoughts to you, are not allowed to make money off of. And bigger people like Jesse Cox, Total Biscuit, Angry Joe, etc., it means they can't. They're not going to cover this game. It's just not something they're going to do, because in the terms of service it said you can make a video but you couldn't monetize it, aka you can freely advertise our game but you're not allowed to make any money off of it. Herp derp derp. It meant a lot of people were not going to cover this game, and I was one of them. I wasn't going to touch this game. Now, luckily, Square Enix has come to their senses and they've changed the policy, which is why you're getting a video today. But generally, I thought for the few days that it was out, that you just wouldn't see any YouTube coverage outside of from some smaller YouTubers. Luckily, they changed that, and I can bring you my thoughts on the game, which is good, because as much as I might have to kind of critique this game, there's actually a lot of good involved. And I'm actually enjoying my time with the game. I have some complaints. We're going to talk about them as we play. But overall, the game is a lot of fun. Outside of the really rough launch, this game is obviously a reboot of the game that came out 3 or 4 years ago, originally Final Fantasy XIV Online, which is even a worse game that was basically completely incomplete for you to even touch. Now, the game is on PC and PS3. You can play it for both. It is cross-platform, meaning I can play with people on the PS3. People on the PS3 can play with me, which is really kind of cool. I like that a lot. And for what I expected, I'm actually quite surprised about this game. Now, to keep in mind, this is extremely important to keep in mind. These are first impressions. I've been playing for maybe around 10 hours. I'm level 17. I'm not that high level at all. So these are early impressions. So take everything I say and apply that. You may see more videos down the line as far as later game content, but I wanted to get out how I personally felt about this game as far as what is presented and what is given to you as a player. If we boot up, we're going to log in and I'm going to start talking. Let me playing this guy, Matt, this Gameson here. And we're in a queue. They have introduced the queue, which is fine. I will bring this video back once the queue is gone. Alright, so we're in the game now, and I can finally start talking about it itself. So again, the game launch was incredibly shaky. It was not exactly the smoothest thing, and they're still having a few problems, but it seems that error 1017 has disappeared, and they have implemented a proper queuing system into the game now, which is good, especially with how popular the game is. So let's talk about Final Fantasy XIV A Realm Reborn, shall we? There's a lot to say about this game, and we're going to start with what's presented in front of you very immediately, and it's the game's aesthetics, the game's looks. The game is, without a doubt, without question, especially on a high-end PC, absolutely gorgeous. It screams Final Fantasy from its art style, from the graphical presentation, even from the sound design. It all kind of comes together so well. The animation system is phenomenal. But with the mixture and the combination of how good the game looks, what the game presents before you as far as character models, the world, detail, shadow, lighting, weather effects, the day and night cycle, and the lighting effects that come with the day and night cycle, mixed with the music and the sound that has such a Square Enix and Final Fantasy feel and polish to it, really immediately give you an excellent feeling of immersion and a sense of wonder that is really needed in an MMO. One that you feel like you want to keep exploring the world, a feeling of wanting to come back and check out what's going on and play in this world and explore this world, this Final Fantasy realm that feels so familiar on a lot of levels, and yet is still so strange and full of wonder and still so new. It evokes memories of long forgotten Final Fantasy games that I used to love and enjoy back in 7, 8, and 9. A lot of it comes from 9 for me personally, just because of the fantasy setting, and giving you that beautiful and wonderful sense of immersion that is so important. But on the other hand, let's focus a little bit on what is such a deterrent for me before we get into why I still enjoy it. First and foremost, when you boot up the game, when you're playing an MMO, it is very important, in my opinion, that the first 10 levels, or at least the tutorial, go relatively quickly. You want to get into the game, you want to get into the meat of the game, and you want to enjoy it as best you can before, while you're still getting through the tutorial and still learning. Final Fantasy XIV takes a different approach. It gives you about 2 hours of straight tutorial, and it's really off-putting. It actually, for the first day or two of early access, made me really question whether I wanted to come back and play some more. The tutorial is rough. It is extremely slow going. It is 2 hours of wandering around the main city, doing delivery quests, fetch quests, talking quests, that basically force you to learn the ins and outs of the game to an unnecessary degree. There is literally a quest that is teaching you how to emote. Is that necessary? Do I need to know how to emote? I feel like if I played any game before, I'd know how to emote, especially with how this game is presenting itself. If you've played any MMO before, you'll know how to play Final Fantasy XIV. The tutorials are unnecessarily detailed and unnecessarily boring. There is very little story there outside of the fact that you are an adventurer. The opening cutscene is pretty decent. It adds some excitement, but once that's done, that like 2 to 3 minute cutscene is done, the excitement quickly disappears, and you are now this adventurer in this large town, trying to quote-unquote make a name for yourself, essentially. And in the process is being sent around town by this barkeep, teaching you where everything is in the main town, and teaching you the unnecessary shit that every MMO knows how to do, with emote tutorials, questing. There's a tutorial that has you picking stuff up off the ground. You are literally picking coin up off the ground. You get the quest, and the quest is, oh, you surprised me so much that I dropped 5 coins. Pick them up and give them back to me. And the 5 coins are, like, by her feet. There's no movement, there is no exploration there. It is literally a quest designed to teach you how to interact with something on the ground. And in case you didn't get that, there's another quest that teaches you how to put posters on a wall, which is essentially the same goddamn thing presented in a totally different fashion. It is unnecessarily detailed, and goddamn is it boring. That is the most deterring thing, especially for somebody who's trying to get into an MMO. You want to grasp them right away. Teach them the basics while presenting an interesting story and introducing some combat. You don't even get to see combat for the first hour of the game. And the first initial combat is your typical go kill giant bugs outside the town and then come back to me. And I mean literally right outside the gate. You don't even get to explore the world. You are confined to that main city for 2 hours. 2 hours, at least! And the quests are so boring. There is a main storyline quest that is obviously detailed immediately in front of you, and it, has a special icon when you have that. But generally speaking, that story does not pick up until around level 10 or so, and it's not a good first impression. It's really not, and it's upsetting that's such a fun game is so detrimentally boring to to its initial impressions, and I feel like it is unnecessary for that to happen. To top it off, if you're looking for a game that is going to push the boundaries of the MMO genre, that is going to do something new and fun and unique, turn back now. Final Fantasy XIV is not that game. It is not trying to do anything new. It is not trying to do anything innovative. It is not trying to do anything quirky or gimmicky. It is your tried and true MMO with the Holy Trinity. And that's a good and a bad thing. Guild Wars 2 was a fun game. Combat was hectic, it was wild, it did something new and exciting, which is okay, you know, generally speaking, and I thought that was fun, but one thing I felt it sorely missed was lacking was a sense of cohesion. Later on in the game, when you wanted to do more PvE stuff like dungeons and raids, for instance, there is no clear tank, clear DPS, clear healer in that game. In fact, because of that lack of Holy Trinity in Guild Wars 2, there was a feeling of chaos, of uncertainty, of insanity almost when you were going through that stuff. It was very much a PvP game, which is I think why they did that. But for the people who wanted to play the PvP or the PvE side of the game, which, let's be honest, there were a lot, it didn't really kind of cater to that. I understand they wanted to try and get rid of the Holy Trinity, but if Guild Wars 2 proved anything, if you're going to stick so closely to the MMO format, which it said it wasn't going to do, but very, very much did. You need to adhere to certain rules, and the idea that they tried to go away from the Holy Trinity tank DPS healing aspect of the game while trying to do something new with the combat, or not do something new with the combat, but do something very samey with the combat. It just proved that it didn't work, and it created a clusterfuck, a chaos that was unnecessary. Final Fantasy XIV does not do that. They are tried and true, 100% Holy Trinity tank DPS and healing class, period. There is nothing more that they are trying to do here. They are taking it and they've polished it to a T. To be honest, World of Warcraft kind of perfected it. I feel like they've gotten away from it over the past couple of expansions. Party play is generally not reinforced as heavily as it used to be in WoW, but for now, and that feeling is kind of brought back in Final Fantasy XIV. The feeling of needing to work as a party is very much present for the most part. Yeah, soloing is possible, but for later levels, it's pretty important that you're going to want a party. And if you do want a solo, they do give you a chocobo companion that will fight with you. But it just proves that playing with somebody is encouraged and a lot more smiled upon. And playing solo is a little bit more frowned upon, which is fine, because in the early days of WoW, that's what it was all about. And WoW got away from that, and I'm glad to see kind of Final Fantasy XIV headed towards that. But Final Fantasy XIV's combat is the global cooldown system. You're looking at finding your rotation, hitting 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 4, 3, 4, 2, 4, 5, 7. You know, that discovering your rotation and discovering what your character is good at, and kind of focusing on that and pushing for that, and trying to figure out how your class works, is present in the game, and that is exactly what they want you to do, and that is exactly what is presented in front of you. It doesn't do anything new. And though I would like to see something new done as far as combat is concerned, this has proved to work. It's not exactly fun. I mean, there are fun elements. What makes it fun for me is the animations, which we're going to get to in a little bit. But that style of combat is kind of worn out. It's worn out its welcome. It's something that, for the most part, has been done and done and done and done, and is tired and is a trope and is kind of cliche at this point, but it works. And again, in Final Fantasy XIV, it is polished to a T. Something else that really bothers me as far as Final Fantasy XIV is concerned is that it introduces things that are very present in late game MMOs early on. And by that, talk time? I don't even know who this is. Link Shell, Gene, Talk Time, Doctrine Dark. I don't know. I'm not going to join this because I don't know what this is. I'm just going to ignore it. So generally speaking, what I was saying, it introduces concepts into the game that are just pretty much unnecessary this early in the game. And one of the core concepts that it introduces at level 13 is daily quests. Now, daily quests is something that kind of WoW invented to bring late game players back to do something. It almost overdid it, especially in Mists of Pandaria. Daily quests have become something almost necessary. So it was invented to basically give players a reason to come back and keep playing their game. That was what it was invented for. After somebody who got all the gear, they can come back and do their daily quests. To present that and bring that forth at level 13 is almost unnecessary, because I feel like it isn't almost unnecessary, it is unnecessary, because I feel like as a player at such an early level, I want to do quests. I want to move forward with the story. I want to explore the world. I don't want to feel obligated to be doing daily quests and already introduce that chore-like element, because daily quests feel like chores. And if anything, people have said time and time again, I hate daily quests. And I stand with them. I hate daily quests. I don't like doing them. I didn't like doing them in WoW, and I don't want to and don't feel like doing them in Final Fantasy XIV. I did a few of them to kind of feel them out and see what they did, and they add some unique twists to the daily quest format. For instance, you could be on a daily quest and a rare monster could pop up in that daily quest and it has a bounty on it, so you collect that bounty at the end of the daily quest as like a bonus for killing him. But it's still a daily quest. You can't dress up a daily quest and call it, a story quest. It's not. It's a daily quest. That's like dressing up a chicken as a dog and calling it a dog. It's still a chicken. It's just wearing, like, a dog costume. Yeah, it is what it is, and I don't like that. I think daily quests are stupid. I think there needs to be another reason for me to keep coming back outside of the idea that you're trying to make me feel guilty to come back and do this chore. I don't like that at all. I think it's absolutely asinine, and I think it's unnecessary in a game, especially at level 13 in a level 50 max game. I just think it's ridiculous. But that's that. Another thing I dislike about this game is the idea that the map system. Oh god, I was talking about this with Indie Mouse, and I know I'm kind of walking around this little town here, but we're gonna get to some fighting and questing in a minute. But the map in this game is god awful. It's awful. So I hit M, and this is the map, and it doesn't even give you a big map like this right away. I had to stretch it out because usually what it gives you is that, which helps none. This is the map that they give you initially, and this is the zone you're in. And a lot of MMOs, it's not a seamless world. There are zones you go into and whatnot. But generally speaking, this is the map it gives you, and it is fucking impossible, especially early on, to tell. Like, World of Warcraft had the map system right. It was simple, it was effective, I knew where I was, I knew where I was going, I knew where I needed to be. With this game, it's kind of a clusterfuck, to be honest with you. There's lots of symbols going on here, but more importantly, when you're looking at it and it tells you where a quest is, especially in the first 2 hours. Let's see if we can get to the main city actually here so I can show you what I'm talking about. So instead of giving you an actual overview of the main city, it gives you mini maps of the zones you're in of the main city. So instead of making one seamless main city, they've zoned out. There's 3 main cities, by the way, and they all work this way. They've zoned out the main city into separate zones that you need to load in and out of. That causes incredible amount of confusion, because not only is it separated into zones, there's multiple floors, and each floor has its own zone, and each section has its own zone, and you're zoning in and out. So instead of popping open the city map and looking at a general view of the city itself, you are seeing the zone you're in, and trying to figure out where you need to go, where the quest is you need to go, is impossible, because when you have a quest up, it doesn't give you a dotted line that says go here. It says you should probably go over here, and then when you go over here, it's going to give you another area you need to go, and you need to kind of follow like this, like finding a needle in a haystack kind of situation. And the map is laid out in such a way that I've run into dead ends multiple times. Like here, for instance, part of this is upstairs, part of this is downstairs. Trying to figure out what's upstairs and what's downstairs is goddamn impossible unless you go up the stairs to the Huntington Strip. And even then, when you go down here, the quest is still telling you that the quest is like over here somewhere. It's not telling you that it's like upstairs. It's fucking impossible to figure out. So couple that with the really slow plotting tutorial in the beginning that's having you run around this fucking city trying to deliver quests and figure things out. It is nigh impossible to figure out where you're going, and elongates that frustrating feeling of just trying to get into the game itself, the game proper. Because the main story, much like the tutorial, takes a long time to pick up. You don't get the first real badass sense of being an important aspect of the story until like level 15. I recently had that experience yesterday. I've been playing for 10 to 12 hours, which in an MMO is nothing, but still a good amount of time investment for something to kind of pick up. So that's kind of, or maybe not 10 to 12 hours, maybe 6 or 7 hours, either way. Either way, that's really slow in plotting, and all of this stuff just makes for an incredibly frustrating first few hours of the game. Now, it seems like I'm shitting on the game, and the first 15 minutes or so have been me shitting on the game, but it's important to note that even with all of these problems, I've been having a really good time with Final Fantasy XIV, and there's a few reasons for that, and I'm not stupid enough to know that part of it isn't nostalgia and that Final Fantasy feel. It very much feels like a Final Fantasy game, and I like that a lot. That feeling and that impression that I'm playing a Final Fantasy with a bunch of other people online is there. There's also a very vanilla WoW feel to the game. There's earning your abilities, earning your gear, working together as a party in order to accomplish goals, playing your role as a tank in order to succeed, playing your role as a healer in order for you to succeed. That feeling is there. Being punished by dying is there for not playing your role, unlike WoW now, where punishment isn't nearly as severe as it used to be. I like that feeling. It is there. That nostalgic feeling is there. There's actually a sense of Star Wars Galaxies as well mixed into this game, which really has me hooked because Star Wars Galaxies was was my first MMO, and I say Star Wars Galaxies because there's going to be player housing in the game that is coming with the next patch, as well as a crafting system that you could do completely separately. I could play this game 100% from level 1 to level 50 as a crafter and just sell things, and that is it. If that's what I want to do, that's what I'm going to do, and we'll talk about the crafting system a little bit later. There's a lot to talk about. But I can do that, and that is a lot of fun, and the crafting in the game itself is not as tedious as much as it is in WoW, where I have the items, I now make the item, and now I have that item and up my skill. It's a totally different experience. But one of the things I'm going to show you here, I'm going to show you a little bit of combat, is the duty system, or the duty call system. It's basically the queuing system. They introduce early on this idea of teaching you how to play dungeons the correct way, which I like, because there's a lot of people, surprisingly, that this is their first MMO experience ever. And they're playing it solely because it's Final Fantasy. So this is a guy called the Battle Warden. He has a quest for you as you play, and it's called Guild Hest. And a Guild Hest, as far as I can tell early on, is tutorials on how to work with a party. And for a game like Final Fantasy XIV, where working with a party is incredibly emphasized, this is good, especially for people who are used to maybe Guild Wars, or maybe even late game World of Warcraft, or later World of Warcraft, post Wrath of the Lich King. So the first one teaches you how to work with a party and kind of basically pull aggro. That is the first tutorial. The second one teaches you a boss fight. It's a very simple boss fight. It's a very easy boss fight. It's hard to fuck up, but it teaches you your role. For me as a tank, it teaches me how to cause aggro, make him attack me, etc., etc. The third one is going through like a mini dungeon. 3 rooms with pulls, of which you use the very first tutorials, what the lessons they taught you to succeed, and then a boss fight at the end. And this one I haven't done yet. It's called Hero on the Half Shell. Wealthy noble Teledege has had his prized pet, a rare gill turtle, kidnapped by ruthless bandits who seek a sizable ransom for the gentle Wavekin's return. Always a man of principle, Teledege has decided that instead of caving to the bandits' demands, he will offer the ransom to anyone who can safely retrieve his pet from the clutches of evil. After weakening the gill turtle, slay fire sprites and use their cores to light a special herb on fire. The smoke release should be powerful enough to put the creature to sleep, but only if the turtle is close enough to the flames. So it sounds like what this is going to do, we're going to join this up, is this teaching you a special kind of boss fight where things are required to do. So when you queue up, it's very reminiscent, obviously, of the group finder in World of Warcraft. Tank, healer, DPS. And there's only 4 needed, and I'm going to be a tank. Now, unlike World of Warcraft, when you pick a class, there isn't talent trees. If I pick Gladiator, I can't be a DPS Gladiator, tank Gladiator, and like a hybrid Gladiator, depending on my talent trees. If I'm picking a Gladiator, I'm picking and playing a tank. I am set in that role, and that is what I am going to do. Now, there's a nice workaround about that, which we can talk about a little bit after we do this potentially. Oh, well, we can talk about it now while we wait. The workaround is that every class is playable to your character. So, as soon as you hit level 10, you unlock the ability to go to other guilds, like Thermitage Guild, or, you know, other class guilds. There's Thermitage, which is like a wizard. There's Arcanist, which is like a summoner or a warlock in WoW terms, etc., etc. And once I hit level 10, I now have the ability to go to those classes and unlock that class and change my gear and become that class. Now, I will reset to level 1 of that class and reset everything, but I will then be that class. And if I so choose to go back to being a gladiator later on, I can just change my gear set and I will immediately become my level 17 gladiator again with all the skills that I've had. So, though I'm giving up talent trees, I am accessing the ability to switch my class on a whim, which makes party forming a lot more flexible, especially if you have a few main class leveled up. And with those classes leveled up, I can then switch freely between being a DPS character or a tank character. One of the other cool things that I really like that this game does is something called the job system. The job system is what's known as is essentially prestige classes, right? In Final Fantasy, you know, some classic Final Fantasy jobs are Summoner, White Mage, Black Mage, Paladin, Dragoon, Monk. All those classes are available to you in the game. You can't start as them. You have to start as a gladiator and work your way up toward Paladin, which actually gives a sense of achievement or something to strive for. I'm not just trying to hit level 50 gladiator to then go after, you know, high-end gear. What I'm actually striving for is to hit level 30 gladiator and then level up to level 15 conjurer. Now, when I do that, it will then unlock the quest through my gladiator trainer to start working to becoming toward a paladin and give me paladin quests and then start leveling up as paladin. This is prerequisites to unlocking these special classes, which I think is kind of cool because it gives that sense of accomplishment that a lot of MMOs kind of lose, especially World of Warcraft, where leveling now is so easy. Leveling in this game early on is pretty easy, but the idea of becoming a gladiator, then going back and leveling up as conjurer, starting at level 1, then unlocking paladin, leveling paladin, you know, straight from the get. That's obviously, oh, here we go. So we're gonna commence. That's a reminiscent of Final Fantasy XIV, as well as very similar to how Star Wars Galaxies used to work, where you could be kind of everything and level up in certain things in order to be really good. You know, maybe be a bounty hunter. You would have. You need to unlock like level 1, like you need to be a sharpshooter level 4, as well as a, you know, a warrior, whatever, level 10 or whatever it was. This is a long time ago. It worked something to that. So the idea of introducing this job system to let you be these classic Final Fantasy jobs, as well as making it something you have to work toward and accomplish, is really cool. One of Black Mage, you have to be a level 30 Thermitage, as well as a level 15, I think, Conjurer for that. I think that's awesome. I really, really like that. I think it's a lot of fun, and I think it's something that really sells me on this game a lot. Now, I did talk about how the global cooldown combat system is essentially... God damn it, people keep withdrawing. There we go. Let's show this off a little bit, show a little bit of group party play. It's a light party because there's only 4 people in the party. The more people you have, like, it's called a full party or whatever. But let's show a little bit of the combat. I'm going to talk about why the combat, even though it's still global cooldown and relatively kind of contrived, is still a lot of fun for me. Here we are. We'll wait for everybody. We got an Arcanist, we've got a Lancer, we've got... I have no idea what she is. Waken the Guild Turtle and lure the beast into your trap. As long as the Guild Turtle is nearby, the bandits will attempt to heal it. Try and keep the creature beyond the reach of their spells. Slay fire sprites and use their corpses to like... Alright, so let's do this. So we have an herb patch. Oh, we need a fire sprite. So we need to find a fire sprite here. So this is teaching you some multi... Oh. He's summoning his carbuncle. He's asking me what do we know what to do. So we need to kill fire sprites to light that on fire. Let's see if we can find some. So let's see. Where can we find some fire sprites? Alright, let's do this. We're gonna... Alright, whoop. Alright. Alright, we're kind of going out of the way here. We need to start doing this. Whoa, whoa. So one of the things these friggin' things have the ability to do here is one of the Arcanist's abilities is summon a pet. The reason he got knocked so far back is because the pet has the ability to do that, knock an enemy far back. But I'm going to basically work on this turtle for right now. And hopefully they'll take care of the fire sprites. Ooh, he can knock me back pretty freaking far. I'm stuck? I think I'm paralyzed. Let's get out of this circle of redness. Alright. Can we kill this little guy here? Let's see if the party says anything. I'm hoping that they still have the ability to do something. I'm hoping that the party has done this before. But we need to bring him down to low health. I'm hoping the fire sprites just show up. I'm going to put my rampart, which gives me extra defense, and then do this fight or flight, which is going to give me extra damage. And just kind of beat him down. And we're going to talk about after this is done, I'm going to talk about the class combinations. Well, actually, I'll talk about it as I'm doing this. It's going to be hard to do, but it's fun. Each class kind of has their own little gimmick. Nothing that really changes the way the classes are played, but for instance, the Gladiator has the ability to do combos. And one of the combos, such as, like, I'd start with Fast Blade, and once I do Fast Blade, you're going to see dotted lines appear around 2. What this means is that the Gill Turtle will be able to resist the fire effects. Do we have a fire spray? Yeah, we do. So we have a fire sprite that shows up over here. Hopefully that'll taunt him. I'm going to start pulling him over this way a little bit. Start dragging him over here. Herbs are flame. Do what you must do to draw him over here. Alright, so we're going to draw him over here. So as you can see when I do fast... Oh, is he over here? So we'll put him right on top of it. So see the dotted line? It means I can do these and they'll do more damage as well as potentially an extra effect. So when I do a combo with Riot Blade, I actually I restore some mana points. Embrace, our work here is complete. So did we do it? We put him to sleep? There we go. Put him to sleep nice and easy. That was easy. Another tutorial on how to do some basic party stuff. Always say nice job. It's always good to kind of reward your people for doing it. Alright. So we got a bonus for nobody dying and for completing it pretty fast. So we got extra money and extra experience. And we got a good chunk of experience for doing that. So we'll be teleported back now, which is good. So let's talk about the combo system a little bit. So for instance, me, I do my Fast Blade. I then do a move that follows it up and does extra damage because I comboed it. The Arcanists, their ability is to have pets. That's kind of their gimmick. Thermitages, their ability is something like a kind of a cool combo system where the more times they cast like a fire spell, the more expensive and the longer it takes to cast that fire spell, but on the flip side, their fire spells do more damage. And if they're doing a ton of fire spells, their ice spells become cheaper to cast, quicker to cast, but do less damage. And then they can build up the opposite of their ice spells. So, like I said, each class has their own kind of unique quote-unquote gimmick. It doesn't drastically change the way you play the character. It just kind of adds a little bit of a focus to the game. Actually, a small complaint I have about the game is that the game gives you your abilities a little bit too slow. You don't get any cool abilities or a lot of abilities till around level 10. I mean, I'm level 16. These are only the only abilities I have right now. It's very slow to hand out your abilities, but at the same time, it means every level it kind of means something slightly more, which I enjoy. So that's how party. So the reason I still like combat is how gorgeous combat looks. Enemies kind of look like they're getting hit. They kind of shake a little bit when they get hit. The sound effects that happen when they get hit are awesome. If we had a Thermitage in the party, you would see some awesome fire explosions. Things just feel like they have impact in this game, and that's a real big draw for me. I really like the idea that I'm hitting this creature, and then as a gladiator who is a melee fighter, I feel like I'm hitting them really hard. It's a big draw for me, as opposed to just seeing numbers pop and saying, yep, I'm definitely hitting him. It adds a subtle addition to the game. It's a nuanced addition to the game, or an effect to the game. I wouldn't call it an addition necessarily, but it is one that draws me further into the game's world that I appreciate. And me, you all know, I much appreciate kind of immersion as I play games. Like how just that slight shake when he gets hit makes it feel like I'm actually doing something to him. So I like that a lot. The animations themselves are really good, even with some basic abilities. The twirling strike when I do Savage Blade, the hard thrust when I do Riot Blade, you'll see. So that's my fast attack, and then I'll do the twirling strike, which looks really good. The animations are just top notch, and it does a little bit. animations do a little bit that goes a long way. Other things that I like about the game that I think are just kind of convenience is that I no longer need to loot enemies. You probably notice I'm not looting anything. Looting it is unnecessary. It automatically adds what the monster would drop into your inventory without even you needing to do anything, which I do like. I do appreciate that a lot. Now, if we talk about crafting, we're going to talk about crafting a little bit here as we kind of head in that direction. So in something like World of Warcraft or any game for that matter, crafting is typically a skill, but not here. Crafting, as I said, is something you could do from levels 1 to 50 easily. And the reason I say that is because if we go to our classes tab over here, crafting is actually a class. You have Disciples of the Hand and Disciples of the Land. The Disciples of the Land are your gathering professions. Your Disciples of the Hand are your crafting professions. And I am only a miner right now. But you level it up like any class. So you go at level 10, you're able to unlock the ability to unlock the ability to gather these professions and do that. You join the guild, you get your gear, and you are then slapped on with the level 1 of whatever you are. So, for instance, I'm a miner. I can equip my mining set. When you equip the weapon of the chosen class, so long as you have that class unlocked, you immediately turn into that class. So, my weapon is a pickaxe. I equip the pickaxe. Essentially, I have sets, which I really like. This is an awesome feature, by the way. Whatever you're wearing, you can then add it as a set, and you can name the set. And you can then switch to that set whenever you want. It's just a nice convenient thing. So with the miner comes the ability to look at your minimap and see things you can prospect. You get abilities that help you mine. Like Prospect shows you where they are. Lay of the Land will give me like the closest thing of my level, or of the highest level I can mine. Sharp Vision gives me the ability, gives me a boost on my percentage to mine certain things. And I have Stealth, so if I am in an area where there's enemies that would aggro me, if I just hit Stealth, I'll move at 50% speed, but they will not attack me, which allows me to just be a miner for the rest of my life. I can go into hostile territory, slap on Stealth, and enemies will never see me, and I can just mine to my heart's content. The game gives you the option to be a miner or a weaver or whatever, and that's all you do is make profit. I like that. It's an option. I like that a lot. Couple that with the upcoming addition of player housing, and you kind of have that Second Life feel, that Star Wars Galaxy feel that is not present in a lot of games right now. That immersion feel, which I really think is sorely lacking in a lot of games as of right now. So being able to do that is fun. Now, as far as I understand, which I haven't gotten to it yet, crafting isn't just click on an item and I build it. There's a mini game involved which will determine the quality of the item you're crafting. And I like that a lot as well. It makes crafting a fun game. It's not just, I could be a crafter from levels 1 to 50, but how fun is that really? Well, honestly, it's not that fun, right? If it was just your typical click on a certain thing and make item and then go up in skill level. Instead, there's a mini game involved which makes it more interactive, and anything that make it more interactive is a lot of fun. Now, is it revolutionizing the MMO in any way? No, of course not. It's not going to be everybody's cup of tea, and everybody's going to want to do it, but it adds a level of interactivity not seen in a lot of MMOs to make something that could potentially be mundane a little bit more fun for people. And I also really like that a whole bunch. It's something that harkens back to the Star Wars Galaxies days with the way they did crafting, which I thought was a lot of fun as well. And you look at the sum of its parts, the game isn't doing anything really fun. I mean, it's not doing anything really fun, pardon me. It's not doing anything really new, but the way it's doing it, apart from the early complaints that I had, I still find myself having a really good time with the game. Now, of course, this is early impressions. I'm still really early on the game. That opinion is subject to change, and if it does, I will make a video for it. But as far as I can tell, this game's right up my alley. I enjoy classic MMOs. I really do. The idea to disappear from this your mundane world and disappear into this fantasy MMO world is something that I sorely miss. WoW was that game for me for a long time, and I miss that. I miss that feeling, and it's kind of come back with Final Fantasy. Now, a lot of it could be that honeymoon phase, and we'll see how I'm feeling a couple months down the line. But it's definitely something that a lot of people might not necessarily, you know, a lot of people might be surprised they are enjoying again. That vanilla WoW feel mixed with Star Wars Galaxies, superb music, superb animations, combat that doesn't do anything new but does what it does almost perfectly. You know, visual effects that are striking, especially on high-end PCs, and, you know, I'm assuming the PS3, because PS3 could probably handle this no problem. It really adds a lot to it. Seeing classic Final Fantasy classes, seeing classic Final Fantasy characters. You know, Bahamut is a world boss that kind of spawns, not Bahamut, Behemoth is a world boss that spawns later in the game. Having that world quests that are present in Rift that I think I even forgot to mention. They have the world quests that are present in Rift and Guild Wars. You know, they're called Fates. Quests that are just happening around the world that you can join in and get experiencing gold for participating. All of that. Final Fantasy XIV takes everything MMOs have done in the past 10 years, does them again, but does them to near perfection. And I think that's why I'm enjoying that. Now, when EverQuest Next rolls around, who knows if I'll still be playing Final Fantasy XIV, because EverQuest Next, I think, is potentially the next big step in MMO evolution. I think it's the next solid step to really pushing the genre forward. But Final Fantasy XIV does what it aims to do originally with its original release, and does it really, really, really well. Now, one thing that people might be set back on is that it is not a free-to-play game. It is a monthly subscription. The question is, how long can that last? Only time will tell. If the game is going to go free-to-play, we'll see. I think if it does go free-to-play, I think it should do what something like Star Wars Galaxies, pardon me, the Star Wars The Old Republic does, and make subscribing an option without fucking with their non-subscribers, making it impossible to play. I really feel like it is going to be something that is going to probably happen inevitably. It will probably go free-to-play, but for now it's subscription-based, and I don't have a big problem with that because subscription-based has its bonuses. You're looking at absolutely having content updates, really cool content updates, and really cool big additions to the game as well. Now, granted, Guild Wars does that as well, but Guild Wars can get away with it because it's free-to-play system. You know, people like to put money into that free-to-play system. As long as this goes free-to-play and people are willing to put money into the free-to-play system, then so be it. Bring it on. Bring on the free-to-play. Just don't fuck the people who are not going to pay for the game. Make the game still fun if you're going to be free-to-play. And make people want to pay money for the game, even in the free-to-play system, to even support the game, whether it be aesthetically, etc., etc. But as it is now, with the subscription base, as long as you're willing to swallow the subscription base, the subscription to the game, it is a lot of fun. You're going to have a lot of classic MMO fun with the Final Fantasy skin that does this game a lot of justice. There's a ton of awesome homages to the Final Fantasy series, as I'm sure you've seen, and I haven't even mentioned, with chocobos and the robots, the mechs from Final Fantasy VI, the different classes, the different monsters, the music, the visuals, everything screams Final Fantasy. And despite all the complaints I had in the beginning, I am having a ton of fun. And I think that's all that really matters. I'm going to be sticking with this game for at least a couple of months. I know my friend is going to be joining me shortly. If you guys want to join me, I will be on the Sargantanas Server. My name is Mathis Gameson. Throw me a friend invite. We'll have some fun. And hopefully I'll see you here in this world if this has at all attracted you to the game. And if it's deterred you from the game, I mean, that's what it is. This isn't your thing, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. Thank you guys so much. I know this has been about a 40-minute or so video, but it has been something I've wanted to talk about for a while. I think I've covered everything, and I know I haven't really talked about guilds and link shells. Link shells are just giant 128-person chat rooms. So that's what that is over there. And guilds I haven't really talked about because the main features of the guild housing isn't in yet. I'll probably talk about that when that patch comes. But overall, I'm really enjoying my time with the game. Even though I have some major complaints, I'm still finding myself in love with it so far, which is really surprising. And especially with how burned I was with Guild Wars. I liked Guild Wars. I thought it was really good, but it didn't do everything it promised to do. And this game did not promise me the world. It promised me a solid time, and I didn't expect to have a solid time and then some with the game. So I give this game a hearty thumbs up. It is well worth checking out if you're into this type of game. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope to see you in the world. If not, I hope this game informed you of what this game is capable of. And as always, I will see you all next time.